Commissioner Michelle Morgan. Here. Commissioner Lee Powers.
Here.
Commissioner George Chambers.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. And at this time, I would like, before we take any votes or go any further, I would like to make special recognition of Mr. Clint Chance of District 2 joining the board here. It's almost not new. He's been actively involved for probably well over 6 months. In the last 90 days, has been extremely involved. So we welcome him, and he's going to be great representation for the board as well as his district. And it's been great getting him on board. He's already been in. He and Montreal have been a new commissioner training 4 days. They can cram into you in Athens, Georgia. And we're excited to have you on board personally, myself, and I welcome you as a board. I'm glad you're here and put forth all the effort, and we're looking for big things out of you, Clint. No pressure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate the introduction, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate you allowing me to meet with the department heads early on. That way I could kind of get my feet wet before today, obviously, and all the constitutional officers and support staff. I appreciate everyone welcoming me, all the commissioners here. I look forward to working with you. And I want to thank the constituents for believing in me and sending me up here to represent them. I also want to thank my predecessor, Commissioner Vicki Anderson. I know she did an extreme job for the county, and look forward to hopefully continuing her footsteps. So thank you all.
Thank you. At this time, we'll be moving through the agenda items 3 and 4. For the invocation, we're going to call on Mr. George Chambers out of District 6. We're going to be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Morgan out of District 4.
Please bow and pray with me. Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We give thanks for this day. We thank you for everything you've done for us and all that you're going to do for us, because you are a loving, caring, forgiving, graceful God. And Lord, as we begin this new year, I want to say thank you for the past, and I want to ask your blessings for the future, Lord, as we begin this new year, not only as a county and as a country, Lord, but as individuals, that we might, if we don't already have our complete focus on you and your word and your plan for us, Lord, I just pray that we might do that, and that the things that we say and do here tonight, Lord, and in the future, Lord, as elected representatives for the people of Carroll County, that it will be led and guided by you and by your principles, Lord. And I thank you for everyone here, not only on this board, but everyone assembled here, and the people of our county, our state, and our country, Lord, that we will continue to be, as it is told, one nation under God. And it's through Jesus I pray. Amen.
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 To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioners. This time we'll move down to item number 5, approval of tonight's agenda. Look for a motion.
Motion made. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you. Item 6, approval of minutes. We have the work session meeting minutes from November 29th of 2018. Item 6.2 is commission meeting minutes for December 4th of 2018. We'll ask for a motion too.
Make a motion. Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? This time I'll turn to the item 7 under public comments. First we'll call on Mr. Donald Brook. If you'll come forward, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes. Now typically we do not have opportunity to answer or resolve every issue. If we see something we can assign someone to you to help with a problem, we'll do so tonight. If not, we'll have your telephone number, follow-up call, and we'll make sure we contact you.
Certainly.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
My name is Donald Brook. My address is 3821 Shady Grove Road in Carrollton. Mr. Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak here. Back in May of 2018, I sat at this very podium and addressed an issue that I had going with an adjacent property owner who effectively is running a motocross track on his property. The property is owned by an LLC, and I provided some documentation of that issue and previous communications with members of the county on this issue. During the summer, the county attorney did call me back and respond to some of those, although some of it was based off of limits or areas where there's lack of ability to enforce certain things. There was no addressing of the LLC issues in general because it's really kind of an undefined area. While that activity settled some during the latter half of the year, it has picked up once again. Part of the recommendations, one of the known recommendations is potentially going through nuisance laws through the magistrate court to get a good behavior bond. On December the 23rd, I called the Carroll County Sheriff's Department. Corporal Garman was gracious enough to come out, do a report for me based off of the noise that we were experiencing that day. I again called on this past Sunday through a logged call with the Sheriff's Department with the activity going on. My fear is that the activity is going to increase back to levels that it had previously, which are really unreliable. One of the things I will leave tonight is a document that was minutes from Fayette County Commission meeting in 2007 dealing with their noise ordinance. In this document, it provides and talks better than I could on the impact of noise, net levels, distances, and with comments by residents that were affected by motorcycle noise in that area. I would ask that you would take that and kindly consider that along with the comments I've made previously and tonight. While I know that the nuisance route is a route that I have to take, and I'm fully prepared to take that, I still ask that y'all consider what I'm speaking on in the view of what an ordinary person would expect in their property. How would you feel if this type of operation was adjacent to your property or your family or neighborhoods within your own districts? When it comes to the LLC aspect, because there does not seem to be defined limits, would you consider an LLC with 100 members buying property adjacent to any of the 5 major subdivisions and doing this very thing on that level? Would it be tolerated? I do not think that it would. I think that you would have thousands of people lined up in here to speak on that issue. Thanks you again for your time, and I'll leave this and appreciate any response you may provide.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Next, under public comments, Mr. Michael McPherson.
My name is Michael McPherson. I live at 103 Chadwick Place, Villa Rica, Georgia. I see some familiar faces up here, and you know that I'm Leslie's husband. Leslie obviously would be here this evening, but she is in the city council meeting in Villa Rica. Last night she attended Temple, and I have attended the Carrollton City Commission. And I'm here to discuss the animal ordinances. Most of you are familiar. And just giving you historically, about a year ago, we called together a summit, and Chairman Smith came up, and we had several interested people, different parties from different cities, animal groups, and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, over the last year, little has been accomplished. Little has been accomplished. And what we're trying to do is get a countywide ordinance that will ensure that animals are treated in a humane and ethical manner. That's our goal. And I think Chairman Smith was saying that we really need to get some input from the different cities and collaborate. But until we get this ball rolling, it'll be another year. So we really want to see that to happen. So we went around already to a couple of the cities. Last night, like I said, we went to 2 different city council meetings. Historically, what happened is you remember the very, very cold weather that occurred about a year and a half, a couple years ago, a year ago. and with the snow and so on and so forth. And Leslie received some phone calls from her constituents saying that these animals are out in these terrible conditions. And so Leslie, being the person she did, she started walking her ward and started exploring this and seeing it. And she told the people, when you see this, please call animal control. And they did call animal control, or they were afraid to, because animal control reports to the fact that, who complained, and then, the neighbors, get after one another. And even Leslie went to a few of the houses and even asked them, is there anything we can do to help you, and so on and so forth with some of these extreme cases. I'll name one that I rescued. It was about 9:30 at night, and a lady had already called animal control and called Leslie. She said, what are we going to do? It's 12 degrees outside, and this poor animal's out there again for another night. So I went and rescued the dog, and I found the dog and spoke with the owners, I will use that term, instead of abusers. And we brought her home, bathed her, took us about 4 or 5 bathings. She was tethered to a chain you could pull a truck with. And her collar is attached by a coat hanger that was cut off, which was digging into her neck. Now, this is just one case. There's lots of other cases out there, but this is the one that we dealt with. But this is occurring. But you see, here's where some of the problems lie, and this is where we need to talk about, is number one is follow-up. If I go and tell you, do this, do that, and you don't follow up on it, people just go back to doing what they were doing before. So that's one thing. The other thing is tethering, which we're talking about, where animals are left out on a tether 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And I'm going to show you a demonstration in just a second. The tether only has to be, in most cases, it's a chain, but it only has to be 4 of the body lengths of the animal. The other thing that we wanted to do is having an ordinance where animals are brought in during certain weather conditions. If it's 100 degrees outside, or if it's going to be, sub 32. We need to come up with a set of consistent rules and regulations that the entire county is going to go by, the cities, and that there will be enforcement of them and follow-up. So I'm just asking if we can, please do that. Like I was telling you that, that was one case I dealt with, but I've dealt with other cases. But sometimes, I want to show you just quick demonstration before I go, but I do want the study group. This is not as pretty as your poodles, Michelle, but this is Abby, and Abby's a medium-sized dog. She weighs about 45 pounds. We found her on the side of the road. She had been shot. Somebody had split her head open, and she was in real bad shape, and we wound up saving her and adopting her, and she's been in a good home. But our interim county animal control person said that in the newspaper recently, when they did a follow-up article, said, you know what? I said, well, I'd like to see fences, but that's impractical in our community, and we just need the minimum is what we need. That's all we're going to do is enforce the minimum. So let me show you the minimum for Abby. And this maybe, as I said, will show you this rope, I'm sorry, is, this rope is her world. This is her world, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Imagine her excrement that's going to be in this. If she has a bowl of water or food, if she's fortunate, and when she's running around, she's going to knock it off. Now, we've got some bad cold weather and rain coming up, don't we? Well, tonight, I'm going to take my precious little Abby, and I'm going to take her out, and I'm going to tether her in the backyard, make sure she has 3 sides and a roof, and I'm going to go tether her out there. And it's going to get into 20s, it's going to rain, and I'm going to leave her out there. That's going to be Abby, right here. That's going to be her life. So look at this rope here. That's their life, and that is not right. Tethering needs to be stopped. It's outlawed in counties around us. So do we want to see Abby, or do we want to see the poodles? Do we want to see them out on a tether? No. So we've got to come up with some rules and regulations for humane control and humane animal control and consistency. So I know I went over my 3 minutes, and I know most of you all up here are wonderful people and that you're very interested in, in this particular issue, but this is one of many issues that you have to deal with. So please, let's get the ball rolling, get with the cities. I volunteered. I'd be more than happy to help with any way that I personally can, and let's just start trying to do the right thing, but not only do the right thing, but enforce the right thing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Michael, thank you. On behalf of Leslie, we tell her thank you. She's done a lot of work for the area, and I know working with Avery, we lost our director out there, took another job, so I know we've had a few delays, but I've been assured that that's the direction we're working is trying to get something collaborative for the entire county. So I knew Leslie already, I talked to her by phone, so to update her. Absolutely. But thank you. Now we'd be moving into the financial session. I'm going to give you just the brief highlights from the way we did last month. Okay, the internet is back up. If y'all need to approach and look on there, thank you, whoever's working on that. One good thing, this is November's report, but obviously sitting here in January, we have been seeing a good many property taxes already paid and coming in, so revenue is going up. But if you'll look at the revenue line under the schedule of revenues, you can see they are up this time compared to last year about $1.3 million. Still a sign that, things are moving in a more positive direction. As y'all know, the last 5-6 year history of Carroll County has been tough, but we're seeing more money come in with our additional new vehicle sales, the change in the state allocations that were allowed when they made the new law up there. With the allocations, we're actually getting we are seeing more revenue under the TAVT tax. We're still not up to the 72% that they promised, but we should hit in the high 50s to 60 this year, as opposed down in the high 38 and 40%. So that change has made a difference. So please make sure you tell your state representatives when you see them, don't let up. But the hard work they put in the session last year has paid off a little bit. Sales tax is remaining strong. We're still up. I'm staying over 13%, but it is almost 14%. So money is moving and swapping hands there. That we're forever grateful. On the expense line, expenses are running about 40.3.7% of allocated budget. That is even less by a little bit of last year, which is showing me that the department heads are really maintaining overall watching what we're spending. Getting them on board and buying into our doing more with less program is definitely paying off. And if you look at cash on hand, very proud of the cash on hand. This time last year was about $14,090,000. We're sitting at $16,642,000 at this point. So that is a good effort as well. The fund balance is up significantly from last year. We continue to watch expenditures closely. We still meet with department heads monthly to go over their expenditures, so we're still maintaining and watching those. The cooperation from the department heads and even elected officials we're glad to work with is going well. If you've got anything for Alicia, she can dive in the weeds with you a little bit. If not, I know y'all have access to her all week, but feel free to.
Mr. Chairman, I got a couple of comments and questions. One thing I noticed, and I've been working with Ms. Cersei and Mr. Pilgrim with the financials, and I appreciate them being able to answer questions for me. One thing I wanted to point out is interest prior year to date was $2,095, and that's up to $61,323, nearly a $60,000 jump. And I think that the department through Ms. Cersei has renegotiated some rates and so forth for us, so we appreciate the department there. I did have a couple of questions. One of them was our portion of the transit vans that was $35,000 my understanding, it looks like there's still an unrealized balance of $34,693. So I was just going to see if Ms. Cersei could maybe update us or give us a little information of why there's still a large outstanding balance on that original expenditure.
Turn on your mic.
We've been in discussion with the Three Rivers folks that supplied the vans to us, and at the end of the year, we owed them $30,000 according to the agreement that we had with them. They are still researching. We have not paid them that, but they feel like that they've been paid, so we're still waiting to hear from them. But we're going to leave that as a payable until we get that resolved.
Okay, thank you. And the other question, miscellaneous revenues went from $71,234 previous year to date to $129,069, which is good. But miscellaneous, obviously, we don't know what that is, so I didn't know if you had an explanation or just a briefing on. That's a good thing it went up, but just trying to figure out what happened in the miscellaneous item.
Well, in this situation, it may not be such a good thing.
Okay.
We've actually had several vehicles that have been totaled, and so when that happens, the revenue from the insurance company comes back into that miscellaneous revenue line. So we've got about $52,000 increase over last year. Now, it's always typical that we will have some wrecked vehicles, and that'll happen. This has been an unusual year where we've had more than usual. We also have received more in public works revenue from individuals and municipalities, where public works goes out and does work for other municipalities, so that makes up the balance of that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anything else? Thank you. This time we'll be moving in, staying under the financial session, but we'll move to item 8.2 as the public hearing for Carroll County DFACS.
Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself from 8.2, 3, 4, and 5.
2, 3, 4, and 5. Thank you, Commissioner Lee. At this time, we're going to open up the public hearing. The public hearing regarding the financing of a facility for the Department of Human Services Division of Family and Children's Services, known as DFACS, which will be financed pursuant to either a lease purchase agreement or an installment sale agreement between Association County Commissioners of Georgia as lessors and seller in Carroll County, Georgia as the leasee and purchaser. We're open for comments. We will request a second request for any comments in the public hearing. Seeing none, we'll take the right to close the public hearing, and now we'll move to item 8.3. We'll call on Ms. Stacy Blackman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, and I'd like to invite up here Gabe Agan, who's our investment banker with Raymond James, and we also have available Tommy Ratchfield, our bond lawyer from Murray Barnes in Atlanta, and Daryl Pilgrim is available to answer any questions as well. But I think you're all familiar with the DFACS project for the expansion and renovation that has been approved, I think, last fall in 2017, and so at this point, we have a resolution for your consideration for the financing and mechanism, which is the lease purchase financing through ACCG, where we, so you don't have to use your funds to pay for the renovation expansion, but we have this statute that allows us to transfer the land for the project to the ACCG, and then it's just the security deed is assigned to a lender, so that's how we get our financing for $3.5 million, and the rent payments from the state for the building will pay for those financing payments that are due. And I think Gabe Agan wanted to explain the financing bids that we received.
Thank you, Stacy, and thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I'll keep this fairly short here, but we've been working on this project for a while now. And as Stacy mentioned, we're financing this through an installment sale agreement structure where ACCG will hold the title to the property, and county will basically pay the installment sale payments, semi-annual payments, which will be assigned to the lender in this case. That we actually placed the financing this last Thursday. This financing we handled a little bit differently. The last couple have been larger financings, and we've sold those with publicly offered bonds. So we'd get bond ratings, we would do disclosure, and anybody that had $5,000 or more, they can invest. So there'd be a lot of different investors. This one's just one investor, and they're going to be required to sign an investment letter saying they've done their own homework and they understand the credit. But we took bids on Thursday. It's a 15-year financing. We're getting a fixed rate of 3.18%, so that will not change over the course of the financing. There's no provision where it could basically balloon at once. It's just level payments. You do have the right to prepay it early, you know, if you spool up some money from, you know, the DFAX payments or from other sources that you may just determine you want to pay some of this debt down. You'll have the option to pay it off in whole beginning February 1, 2026, and there is actually a partial prepayment, so you could do a smaller amount earlier on any interest payment date here. So you know, went pretty well. We got three solid proposals that were fixed rate here, and I'm here to answer questions. But it's a pleasure to get to work with you on this financing. And
hard to follow up on that, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have as to, I guess, the mechanics of the different documents or any questions you may have related to the financing.
Item 8.3. Any questions from the board? Strictly for the resolution. Seeing none, we look for pleasure of the board for a motion.
Make a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Stacey, I just have a quick question. It may have nothing to do with this, and it may be a future document, but once, I don't want this building to go into disrepair like it has. So how do we protect that in the future? Is there money left over each year that we can put into an account? Is that a separate document we should have a discussion next month, or is that, I couldn't find it in this?
The lease, we have the maintenance requirements in the lease. The county's required to maintain the property according to the lease with the state, and I think with the finances, with the rent that's being paid, there is money to have that would be available to make those repairs and maintenance.
Okay, because I didn't read that in here. That's why I didn't know if that was a separate document down the way that we agree to upkeep whatever, or the state agrees to upkeep.
We agree to upkeep. It's in the lease document, which is I think the item 2 after this. I think, is it
Number
item
5?
4?
I was looking at number 5, but I didn't see specifically. That was my only, I just want to make sure that there was a discussion of that, so we did not end up 20 years from now with the same problem.
Right.
Okay.
Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you. Stacy, Gabe. We'll move to item 8.4, which is actually the bids. We'll call on Gerald Pilgrim.
Commissioner Morgan, just kind of maybe to address that we have been on the maintenance, that is required in the lease, but I think you're looking more at making sure we do capital improvements on that. And that would be a separate thing that the board policy, there is going to be, when everything's said and done, there'll be just about $55,000 a year that the board will be able to dictate if we can put, what we've talked about a year ago was maybe to take a portion of that to go into general fund and then a portion to go into just kind of a separate line, kind of like we do with the workers' comp, and we'll set that fund up. That would be something that the board then would direct and decide how to use that money.
You and I had that conversation, and I didn't see it written into this.
But I want to be clear that the maintenance is we do maintain that building. That is under our maintenance that we've been doing that, but it'll be a separate, that you want to look at more as a capital improvements on the budget.
Right, upgrades when the carpet has holes in it.
But there would be money that would be available for that if the board chooses to dedicate a portion of that for. So like I said, not to get off that, but I think that's going to be a different, it won't be, the maintenance won't be part of that issue.
Okay,
So
so yeah, let me correct that, yes.
Yeah.
The capital stuff to keep.
that'll be something that the board can determine as we do, when we start getting the rents in, then the board can budget that portion.
Sorry, Charles, I didn't really mean anything against Public Works. I meant it specifically for like carpet needs to be prepared, things like that.
And one of the things too is when we have the numbers and you have before you, we've solicited bids, we have the bids in. But, you know, again, one of our things that we like to do here and that we do at every meeting is this project would not be coming in at this number. We would not be looking at a total budget of $3.5 million if we did not have our Public Works Department. We were able to pull out our site package, our grading package on that when we're doing the bidding, and that's something that Charles and his team will be handling for us, and that they're going to make it pad ready. Then the contractor comes in. We'll also have money, and I think Ms. Smith will be appreciative of this. It'll be money that Charles's people then will be able to go in and repave the parking lot and do improvements on that. So we're going to have some stuff, and that's just because we have such a great team in our Public Works. But just to brag on Charles, that you can't brag on him enough. So, but we do have, we had 7 bids that came in. They were all within the range that we were expecting. Actually, you know, we were thinking $3 million. It came in a little bit under. And that'll give us some money that we do have money to be able to do the parking lot and some other stuff in there. So, and then we'll also be able to recoup our costs for the engineering and architectural fees that we've already outlaid. So we'll have that. We do have the things, there's, we did not do this on there, we did it as a low bid project. So Diversified, which we've done our due diligence on Diversified. We've talked to numerous people they've worked for. The architect has done research. The attorneys have looked at it, and we do not see anything negative on them. The next bid, they were pretty close. Within $49,000 was Torrance Construction, which we had done previous work with Torrance Construction, but that just shows that the bids, we didn't get an off-site bid, that these are close numbers, that they're all right in there on top of each other. So we would ask for the board to go with Diversified Construction as being the low bid. And then we'll have the contracts that would be approved, the AIA contracts that Stacy put in the bid documents and all those type of things that they would have to follow, and the bond would be bonded.
Look for pleasure of the board for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Now any discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you.
I thank you, but I think Libby Smith and Emily Cole in the back thank you more than I do, because Libby started in 1992, and it's the same wallpaper as when she started.
And this is a lot of long work in progress. We've had many conversations, and a lot of outside agencies helping us. But
just to remind the board, because I know it gets in there, but this was brought to the board at the September 2000 retreat to discuss this, and that they gave the go-ahead to start pursuing it, and dealing with the state, it's taken this long to finally get it done.
And at this time, we'll move to item 8.5, Carroll County DFAX, the sublease. We'll call on County Attorney Stacy Blackman as well.
Thank you. This is the last step in this project, but it's a resolution to approve the sublease to the State Properties Commission, who will then assign the rights to DFAX to occupy the building. This is a 15-year lease with $350,000 payment, and we keep up the building, but the state pays the utilities and the janitorial services. And so at the end of the 15 years, I'm not sure if I mentioned, but after we pay our lease payments, we own the property again. So let me know if you have any questions.
We'll look for a motion from the board.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Mm-hmm.
Motion and second. Now any discussion? County Attorney? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Stacy. Item 8.6 under financial session, juvenile court personnel. We'll call on Gerald Pilgrim again.
I can discuss the grant, but if you have questions about the family treatment court, we do have Judge Palmer is here right in the back. So he'll be here. This is for a position for his family treatment court. He received grant funding that will cover for 6 months of salary. He is applying to have it renewed, that he feels like it'll be approved to go for next year also, that he'll send an application in, I believe, in February. And we feel pretty good. Dusty Hightower is on the committee that helps assign the money, so we have some good inside tracks that we think that we may be able to renew that next year, so, well, or at least have a good shot at it. But this position is there. It will be at will and be dependent upon grant funding like we do with several of his positions at the treatment court and with his wellness court, and like we do with our other wellness courts that we have. But if you have any questions on that, these are funds, the matching funds are already covered within the amount of money that he spends in treatment court. So there would be no impact to the budget for his budget for that.
Look for a motion from the board.
Motion made.
Second.
Motion is second. Now any discussion or questions?
Gerald, just to clarify,
Yes.
to recap what you said, you do feel confident that moving forward, this is something that hopefully the grant will continue. This isn't a, let's get you the first year, and then from there on out, that's the possibility of not being able to continue
These
to
have
get the
been
grant.
renewing pretty consistently, and one of the things that Ann has put in the job description too, if it does become not funding, and it would be, it would go away at that point. But Judge Palmer could probably address maybe on the commitment from the state.
It's a 6-month grant.
Yeah. Just so we can get it on recording and all. Thank you.
Because it did, when I was listening to it, it sounded odd. Well, it's a 6-month grant. The reason it's a 6-month grant is actually this is the midpoint of the grant year with the state for this. And because we got over 12 people in the program, which we actually have 15 now, we automatically became eligible to get a part-time case manager. So we made the request mid-year for the case manager, and they went ahead and approved us for that mid-year. So at 6 months, we've already, Ms. Cota, who is here, who is the coordinator for my court, has prepared the documents to ask for that, and we'll have well over, and we actually may be coming back to ask for additional as this program grows. But yes, the state looks at it every May for the July funding. We have steadily gotten this funding every year since we created this program and our juvenile drug court program. The felony drug court that the Superior Court has been in place for it's well over 10 years, I forget, with the same funding every year. And now the county has a mental health court, which also gets that. And there is a pledge, I would say, from both the outgoing governor and the incoming governor, personally to the Council of Accountability Court judges, that they are for this type of court, that they are going to continue this, and they're going to seek more money for this type of program. So we feel assured. The reason it's 6 months is we have to reapply for it, and then it'll be additional 12 months.
Thank you for the explanation.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Judge, we only pass, I know, in the parking lot, but we really appreciate everything you've done in the juvenile arena since you've brought. Yeah. You always work for Grant. You always try to help offsetting our budget. You always respect how tight ours is, and you've been a pleasure to work with too. So, absolutely.
But I would say, thank the commission very much for everything you do for not only my court, but the court system. And you don't hear that probably very much, especially on the court side, but it is very much appreciated. We have some of the best employees. They work very hard, and we very much appreciate the support we get from the county commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 8.7, Q Public Service Agreement. We'll call on County Attorney again, Ms. Stacy Black.
Thank you, and Renee Palmer is going to join me, the Chief Appraiser. This is a proposal for a service agreement with a 5-year term with Snyder Corporation, which is also known as Q Public, for the database that's publicly available that the tax office uses. And I'll let Renee talk about their services for a moment.
We've had this for a long time. In fact, I pulled the paperwork, and I remember a long time ago, and I looked, it's 2004, we were actually the guinea pigs for this website for this gentleman that started it. And it was named Q Public because it was John Q Public. That's what he wanted to name. But he has since sold that company to Schneider Corporation, Geospatial. But it's the only way that we have to put our information out to the public. A lot of counties use this, but a lot of counties charge to be able to get that information off our website. and we never have. That might be something to look at in the future, but right now, it's all free to the public. But they wouldn't let us have the contract for 1 year. It's always been at a 5-year increment, and they've always, I looked, and the first initial payment of the website was $8,000, and it's still only $8,500. So if we only did it for 1 year, it would be $12,000, and I know we don't normally do that, but it was more prudent to go at the $8,500. But
They do have, they're offering the discount with the 5-year term, so if we terminate, if we don't choose to renew it during the term, they ask that we're required to pay back that discount of $3,500 per year. So, but the Board of Assessors has approved this contract, and I understand from Renee, you don't anticipate you terminate during the 5-year term.
not right now.
Look for a motion from the board.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second. Now, any questions or discussion? Seeing none from the board, all those in favor? All those opposed?
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Stacy. At this time, we'll be moving into item number 9 on the agenda, business session. Item 9.1 is vice chairman, the election. Look for a motion from the board.
Make a motion, George Chambers.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you, George, for your service.
Thank you all for your confidence.
Item 9.2, appointment, Carroll County Development Authority. This will be a District 2. Mr. Clint Chance appointment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to thank Ellen Wimett-Brayer, who had previously served in this role. Due to personal and work time restraints, she's unable to continue her service here. I have spoken with Mr. Alan Martinez, who is amenable to serve out the remainder of the term. Mr. Martinez is both a resident and a business owner in District 2. I've known for many years. He's very involved in the community. In addition to that, he's the CEO of a wealth management company. I think he understands both small business and large corporate business as well, so I think he would be very fluent, would be a great asset to this particular Development Authority Board. So with that, I would like to nominate Mr. Alan Martinez for consideration.
All right, in form of motion, Mr. Alan Martinez. We look for a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Now, any discussions? Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you very much. Item 3, appointment, Pathway Center Community Service Board. I do know that Sandra Morris is willing and able and would like to serve again. Look for a motion at the board.
Make a motion, Sandra Morris.
Motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Item 9.4, appointment, the Three Rivers Regional Commission. Ms. Donna Lackey serves and is willing and able to serve again. We'll look for a motion.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? 9.5, Streetlight Special Tax District Establishment. We're going to call on County Engineer, Mr. Brian Kent.
Evening, Chairman, Commissioners. Before you, we have the subdivision Harlan Trace. The Phase 2 portion of Harlan Trace final plat is being routed. Water Authority has signed off. The next step is to go before other departments. One of the final steps is Carroll County requires streetlights in any subdivision over 25 lots. The developer has come forward and paid those fees and submitted that application. And before you today with your consideration is the creation of the special tax district for Phase 2 of Harlan Trace. Any questions?
We'll ask for a motion.
Motion to approve the special tax district.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Now, any discussion or questions for Mr. Kent? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian, thank you very much. Item 9.6, circuit boundary study. We're going to call on Commissioner Lee Powers.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution for the Coweta County Coweta Judicial Circuit, and it's composed of Carroll, Hurd, Coweta, Troop, Meriwether, to be split with just Carroll and Hurd County.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussions?
I would like to make a comment. I know myself being new coming on to the commission board here, I attended along with several other commissioners a breakfast, pastor's breakfast, in which our new district attorney, Mr. Cranford, along with Sheriff Langley, were there and spoke in favor of not only the circuit split, but they provided data, factual data, that we were able to go back and look over. So I do want to thank Mr. Cranford for coming on board and taking time to actually gather the data and present it, and also Sheriff Langley. I think it's good that not only we have Sheriff Langley that's seasoned and been here that's supporting this, but we've got a new set of eyes, so to speak, in the district attorney's office who's presenting something. So for me, that's two broad spectrum there kind of backing this evidence here. So I'm very data driven, so I appreciated the information that was presented to us for our consideration. And I think as Carroll County continues to grow, we've got to look at innovative ways to continue to streamline services and so forth. And so there's been a lot of information for us to digest, and I just thank everyone that had an involvement in that and presenting that before the board.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? We have a second. Any further discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you by like sign. And we will recognize the district attorney if anybody's here afterward would like to speak. He is here. The sheriff too, and thank y'all for the support obviously as well. If the sheriff is sick, he may be leaving. We appreciate your support as well. Totally understand. Item 9.7, speed limit reduction. Call on our Public Works Director and favorite person, Charles Pope.
Thank you, Chairman. It's a consideration and resolution or ordinance to adopt the speed study we had done on Laverne Road. And what the county, what we were doing, we had a traffic study done to reduce the speed for 2.06 miles on Laverne Road, which was from the Carrollton city limits to Ingram Road, and we're proposed to reduce it from 55 to 45, and the state has approved that.
Look for a motion.
I make a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Now, any discussions or questions?
I would just say that, and Charles knows this, Chairman, I had a discussion, I can't remember if it was Thursday or Friday of last week, about this, and he laid the facts and figures out, so very much supportive of it, and thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, GDOT, for approving it also.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed?
Thank you.
And Charles, we will say hard work. We've made, as y'all well know, this is, all the work we did was at the intersection of the back entrance off Laverne Road to the new stadium. The traffic is built up there. We coordinated. Charles has worked very well with the city, another collaborative effort and project there of making it more of a four-way. We've had several serious accidents right there because they topped that hill there. So it's been a long time coming, but we've worked well with the college and appreciate them working with us, but putting it all together. Charles, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Well, Vicky's not here.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Are there any discussions? Seeing none, we stand adjourned.